He thought posting bikini photos with another woman was a test of his fiancée's loyalty, a twisted game to prove she was secure enough to marry him. But he didn't realize that while he was busy playing games in Thailand, she was busy replacing him in Greece. And by the time he realized his freedom trip was actually a trap set by a professional con artist, his fiancée was already gone. It started as a break before the wedding, a mutual agreement to enjoy some autonomy. But if social media was the window to the soul, Julian's soul was wearing a neon pink string bikini. His feed wasn't a travel diary, it was a softcore catalog of a woman named Sienna. There she was in a tiny red swimsuit at an infinity pool, cocktails in hand. There she was draped over him at a beach club. Every day brought a new color, a new angle, and a new level of disrespect. His best friend Mara was the reluctant witness, screenshots flying in with skull emojis, asking if this was real life. The hypocrisy was suffocating. Julian had spent weeks lecturing about the importance of trust, yet here he was, posting photos of Sienna in his hotel bathrobe, holding a coffee cup on a balcony with captions about how breakfast tastes better when you're living freely. The implication was subtle as a sledgehammer. But there were no angry comments left on his posts. The silence was deafening because, in Santorini, a different life was unfolding. A chance wandering into a family-owned restaurant overlooking the caldera led to a meeting with Miko, the owner's grandson. What started as a lunch order turned into hours of conversation with Miko and his grandmother, Yaya Katerina. It wasn't about partying, it was about connection. Miko became a guide to the hidden parts of the island, teaching the art of traditional cooking and the joy of simple conversation. Naturally, this new life made it to the feed. But unlike Julian's spring break special, these posts were tasteful. Cooking lessons, golden sunsets, genuine smiles, fully clothed and radiating authenticity. The contrast was stark. Julian's feed looked like a desperate attempt to prove he was having fun, the other looked like a life-changing cultural shift. And Julian noticed. The man who preached about freedom suddenly had a lot of questions. His texts shifted from breezy to paranoid, demanding to know who the guy in the stories was and why calls were going unanswered. The response was always delayed and breezy, mirroring his own previous attitude about enjoying independence. As the weeks went on, Julian spiraled. He tried to reclaim dominance by posting even more provocative content, Sienna in body paint at a full moon party, his arm possessively around her. The internet is forever, and he was documenting his own infidelity in 4K resolution. But simultaneously, his private messages were a frantic mess of gaslighting, accusing his fiancée of not caring about the wedding and failing to respect boundaries, the very boundaries he was currently setting on fire in Thailand. By week 3, the dynamic had completely flipped. Julian was video calling multiple times a day, desperate for attention. The few times the call was answered, it was kept short, sweet, and dismissive, fueling his panic. His posts became sadder, the smiles more forced, the captions trying too hard to convince the world he was happy. Then came the inevitable crash. Sunday of week 3. Julian demanded to talk, claiming something happened with Sienna and he wanted to come home. But the call went unanswered. There was a beach bonfire to attend, broken Greek to speak, and a sunset to watch with Miko. It wasn't about revenge, it was about indifference. Some people plan trips to test their partners, but they end up discovering that real freedom is refusing to accept less than you deserve. Finally, the video call was accepted. The backdrop was the golden hour at Miko's family restaurant, the Mediterranean shimmering behind a face that looked genuinely happy. On the other end of the line, Julian was a wreck. He was calling from a dingy hostel in Bangkok, looking like he hadn't slept or showered in days. He launched into a sob story about how Sienna had ditched him for an Australian guy named Dylan, leaving him alone and miserable. He wanted to come home. He wanted to work on us. The reply was calm and devastating. There would be no coming home. The wedding was off. Julian exploded. He couldn't comprehend it. He accused her of throwing away a 2-year relationship for a vacation fling, completely missing the irony that he had spent the last month parading another woman around online. He screamed that she was being vindictive, that she was throwing away their future. But the clarity was absolute. This wasn't about the trip, it was about the realization that she had been more productive and happy working remotely in Greece than she had ever been under his constant criticism. She didn't need to sacrifice her career or her dignity. She just needed to sacrifice him. He tried to pivot to anger, yelling that Miko was using her, that she was naive. He sat there, abandoned in a hostel bed, lecturing her on being used. The question was asked sweetly, how was Sienna? Did Dylan even exist? The look on his face confirmed the suspicion. There was more to the story than a simple breakup. The final instructions were given with ice-cold precision. He was to cancel the vendors. He was to explain to everyone why the wedding was off. And he was to leave her alone. He tried one last manipulation, a final threat to stop being ridiculous, but it was met with laughter. The relationship had ended the moment he told her to learn to cook while he partied with another woman. She hung up, blocked his number, and turned to Nico. The aftermath was the sweetest tea of all. Mara, the best friend, did the digging that Julian was too embarrassed to do. Sienna wasn't a friend, she was a professional con artist. There was no Australian boyfriend named Dylan. She had drained Julian's bank account, maxed out his credit cards, and stolen his passport before vanishing into the night. He had literally thrown away his fiancé for a criminal who saw him coming from a mile away. Julian returned home broke, humiliated, and living with his parents. Meanwhile, the visa in Greece was extended. The photos of Julian and the scammer remain on the internet forever, a monument to his stupidity. He wanted freedom, and he got it, single, broke, and alone. As for the naive girl he tried to manipulate, she's still in Greece, learning family recipes, and finally understanding that living well really is the best revenge.